Welcome to Inkhaven Presents, Readings from the Archive, where I invite internet writers to bring, read, and discuss an essay with me. My guest today is Alice Liu, who writes the blog Signore Galilei.
Yes, Signore Galilei.
And is also the lead scriptwriter for Rational Animations, a fantastic YouTube channel.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for coming. What essay are you going to be reading today?
I'm going to be reading Tides Are Weirder Than You Think from my first Inkhaven appearance.
Wonderful. I don't think there's anything in particular we need to know about it going in. We'll put some of the images up that come from the essay.
Sounds great.
All right, well, let's listen to that.
Tides are weirder than you think. Our world relies on the sea more than ever. 80% of goods traded worldwide move by ship. Today's mariners take it for granted that they can get an accurate chart of the tides for any location on Earth. This would not have been possible without the work of countless scientists through history. The first workable solution, Lord Kelvin's tide predicting machines, came in the 1870s. They were complex masses of gears and pulleys that were the most advanced mechanical computers of their day. Why this complexity? Ancient Greek philosophers had already deduced that the moon caused the tides. Isaac Newton determined that the moon's gravity was responsible in the 1680s, and Pierre-Simon Laplace produced a more refined theory in the 1770s, incorporating the Earth's rotation and land masses. But Laplace's equations were very challenging to actually solve for any given location, hence the machines. Let's go through the different layers that make tides so complicated. Layer 1. Tides come from the moon's gravity. You might remember that the moon's gravity causes tides from science class. Those Greek philosophers realized this because high tide gets later by about 50 minutes each day, just as the moon rises 50 minutes later each day. The connection makes sense, but how does it work? Think of two satellites orbiting the Earth. The closer satellite feels more gravity than the further satellite, so it orbits faster. This is why Mercury, the closest planet to the Sun, is also the fastest. So there's a little diagram. The satellites start lined up, but they don't stay that way. If we tied the satellites together with a very strong cable, we could force them to orbit together. This would stretch the cable out taut. This stretching is the tidal force. The moon's gravity has the same effect on the Earth as they both orbit their common center of mass. Instead of the cable stretching taut, the Earth stretches out. Water stretches more easily than land does, so it bulges up on the sides of the Earth closest to and furthest from the moon. Then, as the Earth turns and the moon orbits, you get high and low tide every half day plus 50 minutes. That said, the actual moment of high tide isn't always when the moon is straight overhead or straight down, because the Earth drags the oceans along as it spins. Layer 2. Tides come from the sun's gravity too. The moon isn't the only large object whose gravity affects the Earth's oceans. The sun does too. So when the sun, Earth, and moon are lined up at full and new moon, high tides are higher and low tides are lower. This is called a spring tide. When they're least lined up, first and last quarter moon, tides are more smoothed out. This is called a neap tide. This is actually where my science class explanation ended, but it's not enough to actually predict the tides. Layer 3, the Earth is tilted. Check out this tide chart from Gulfport, Mississippi. Notice that it has only one high and one low tide per day. What's going on? The moon's orbit is tilted about 28 degrees from the equator. So the tidal bulges, blue, are tilted to the Earth's axis, solid red. As a spot partway up the Earth's surface turns through this tilted bulge, its path, the dashed line, takes it through one high tide and one low tide per day. Somewhere closer to the equator, we'll have a mix of 12-hour and 24-hour tides. So to recap, the biggest astronomical components of the tides are the 12-hour lunar tide, the 12-hour solar tide, the 24-hour lunar tide, and the 24-hour solar tide. These are the biggest pulleys on the tide predicting machine. There are other smaller astronomical components too. But even if you knew all of them, that's still not enough to predict the tides. Layer 4. The Earth has land. Unfortunately for our perfect astronomical model, the oceans have these annoying chunks of land stuck in the middle. The astronomical components are the forces that drive the tides, but the actual tides at any location are the result of those forces creating waves that slosh around in between the land. You end up with situations like tides circling New Zealand and Madagascar every 12 hours, or several amphidromic points in the ocean, which experience no 12-hour lunar tides at all. So to predict the tide in any given harbor, You need to know the strength of each astronomical component in that harbor, the phase of each component, how early or late its peak is compared to the theory, extra components from the shape and depth of the harbor, and the phases of those extra components. How machines change the game. If you're a scientist in 1800, you're stuck calculating all these numbers by hand, then laboriously calculating their effects forward in time to make a full tidal table. Kelvin's machine automates the second half of that task. As the pulleys spin, they pull on a common chain by the correct amount for each of the calculated components. A year's worth of tidal tables can be put together in half an hour if you know the components. Even better, you can guess and check the components by comparing your machine's output to the past records and adjusting the pulleys until you get something that works correctly. Tide predicting machines were used up until the 1970s, when computers finally got good enough to replace them. There is yet more weirdness. The picture of tides in this post is still incomplete. We haven't even explained tidal bores. Every time I think I understand how tides work, there's some additional wrinkle I can't explain. Tides are not the only such subject. So we won't try to finish this whole story with just this one post. Just remember next time you're at the beach, tides are weirder than you think.
All right. Well, thanks very much for reading that. I enjoyed listening to it.
Yeah, of course.
I'm curious, did you notice anything new or different about the essay from reading it aloud than when you
Yeah,
originally
I
read
noticed that. So when I write scripts to be read aloud, there's different formatting things, especially. So like parentheticals work really well in written form. But when you're speaking them out loud, you have to sort of like format them differently. Like you have to introduce the parentheses instead of just writing them.
That makes sense. When you wrote this piece, which you wrote here at Inkhaven in the first cohort, did you generally, both in this piece and other pieces, did you generally know the science and then you just were doing a write-up, or did you have to do any like research when you were writing the pieces?
I do some research. So usually I come in knowing a little bit and then I research the rest of it, basically. My goal is that I want to be able to sort of condense a few hours worth of research into one post that people can read.
Yep. How much was it with your tides piece?
I'd say that I knew up to the part where there were both 12-hour and 24-hour tides, and I did not know the reason why at that point.
Oh, fun.
So everything after that is stuff that I researched for this post.
How did you come up with the idea for the tides piece? Where did the seed of that arrive from?
Okay, so I think, let's see, what was the seed exactly? I really like going on Wikipedia rabbit holes. This is just a thing about me. And one time a while ago, I discovered something called the pole tide, which is one of those extra astronomical components not in here, which is that because the Earth's pole wobbles around a bit, it's by a few feet a year. That causes it a little bit of tide that's not from another astronomical body.
Huh.
And so I was like, I could go right into that, but that seems like it would be too deep. So I need to explain everything else first. And then I realized that explanation would just be a good post by itself.
That makes sense. So I always get confused by the magnitude of these things. So the Earth's pole is off by a few feet. And does that cause a much larger shift in tides?
No, it's a very small shift in the tides. I think it's less than a centimeter.
Amazing.
But it adds up. All these little bits, they change the astronomical components just enough that you can still measure them.
That's cool. Yeah. I also like going down Wikipedia rabbit holes. Curious, have you been down one recently?
Okay.
What's the last Wikipedia rabbit hole?
Last Wikipedia rabbit hole. Well, this is not the most recent one, but this is the most recent one that I've posted about. Is about the Khwarezmian Empire. So it's a empire that ruled Persia, but they were actually based in Central Asia. And when the Mongols came and conquered them, so that's the era of the 1200s. It was like as deadly as World War I, supposedly.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's one of those ancient wars or medieval wars that like you don't know about because it's in a corner of the world we don't talk about in our school systems or whatever. But yeah, it's weird to me that it was that significant to the people of the time and we barely know about it.
I'm curious, do you have a sense of how long that war lasted?
It was like 3 years.
3 years. Interesting. Crazy. How did you begin this Wikipedia rabbit hole?
Okay, I think the way I came into it this time, so if you read my piece about it, as I keep coming back to this one war for over and over again, it's just a thing that happens in my mind. But one of the ways you can get in there is that algorithms are named after a person, Al-Khwarizmi, who was named that because, or referred to that in the text because he was from this empire.
Oh,
Yeah, so
that's
it's
fun.
directly a word in our modern English, and we just don't know that.
How interesting. That's a fun way to find out about a massive war.
Yeah,
To be
seriously.
like, algorithms. I wonder where that comes from. Oh dear.
Yeah, you imagine someone, in the post whatever future, and then be like, oh, I wonder where, what the stories of these poppies that people wear, and then, oh wow, there was a whole war, World War One that we didn't know about. Yeah.
Had you done much blogging before Inkhaven 1?
I had not. So I had my YouTube channel, same name as the blog, Signora Galilei, and that I've been doing for a few years. But this was really my first blogging as such. Before Inkhaven, I had my YouTube channel for several years.
Yeah.
I still have that going. And it's sort of similar to blogging in some ways, but I would say that Rational Animation scripts and my own YouTube scripts are really, in my mind, a little bit of a separate thing from blogging. So Inkhaven was my really first real blog.
That makes sense. I think in a minute I want to ask you how you feel looking back on it. But what was it like at the time? How were you? Was there anything about it surprising or unexpected?
So Inkhaven in general.
Yeah.
Yes. So the most unexpected thing about Inkhaven was that somehow I was the first to post on several days. I came in thinking I was going to be so late because I'm late on so many deadlines in the world. But something about this space at Lighthaven and the fact that everyone else was always working was just exactly the correct environment for me.
Oh, that's nice.
So I would several days I would write tomorrow's post as it approached midnight and then post it just after midnight, whereas everyone else was posting their own post for the actual day before midnight.
That's nice. Yeah, I think it was a competition between you and Svi Benson-Tilson for who could post earlier.
Yeah.
He would sometimes, he would post one, I think just before midnight, and then 1 minute after midnight. He would have two ready.
That's awesome.
Why did you apply? Why did you want to go to Inkhaven?
So I was suggested this by my boss at Rational Animations.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so you can see our little dog.
They've been wonderful supporters of us this whole time.
Yeah, of course. So basically my boss came in, he's the one who runs the whole channel. He came in and was like, I've heard about this amazing blogging retreat that's going to be happening. I think that you should go to up your skills. And I agreed wholeheartedly.
I can't believe I didn't know that, even though I've talked with them about this a bunch of times. That's great. Nice. And then, which pieces of writing during Inkhaven were you most proud of?
So I like the one I read, The Tides Are Ruder Than You Think. I feel like it's interesting because most of the ones I wrote were explainers in this vein.
Yep.
And I think this is one of the best examples of that. But the ones I'm most proud of, I feel like are the few exceptions to the rule. So I did one fiction piece that was sort of an extended math joke, but it was very fun. And then that one was about, how there's all those puzzles where there's a bunch of perfectly logical mathematicians and some evil prisoner thing is happening to them.
Yes.
So that was that one I was proud of. And the other one was philosophy-shaped mind shards, which was sort of the most personal one I wrote there.
Yeah.
And that was about some way that my mind goes on weird tangents that are self-destructive.
Oh, okay. How do you feel about the writing looking back now? How do you feel about Inkhaven?
I feel like... Yeah, I think this might be something that other people say as well, but it's you can't tell from the effort you put in how people are going to receive it. Right. I really liked all the pieces I wrote at Inkhaven. I'm still doing the weekly posting.
Forever Haven.
Forever Haven, yes. I'm one of, I believe, 7 people left from the original cohort.
Yeah, many of whom are still posting, but only 7 of you have managed every week.
This is correct, yes.
In how many months has it been? It's been December, January, February, March, and now nearly end of April. So 5 months.
5 months, yes. So I hope I can keep it up.
I hope so too.
So I think I'm proud of this body of work. I really like what I've done. I think it represents the kind of writing that I really like to do and the kind of explaining that I really like to do. And that's sort of the big overall view of it. So
you said you weren't sure which, the effort did not necessarily translate into the readership or something. I think the one that we read was maybe the one that did best on Hacker News, but a couple of others, there was something about, I think, mechanical...
so one of the other ones that went onto the Hacker News front page was about... I designed a mechanical calculator, and I learned a whole lot about gears while doing it.
Wonderful.
So that was fun.
And I presume that one was the one where you'd done all of that work before Inkhaven.
Yeah.
And then you did a nice write-up. Nice. How did you make all those diagrams for it?
Those diagrams are, some of them I found as Creative Commons ones, and the other ones were just screenshots of my 3D modeling software.
Very nice.
It worked pretty well. That one was fun. And then since since the end of Inkhaven, during the Forever Haven pieces, I had a couple other ones go on Hacker News. One was about the mountain that weighed the Earth. So there was an experiment done with a mountain in Scotland to figure out the mass of the Earth, and it was within like 20%. And then...
What was the rough shape of the experiment?
So the experiment was you compare where a pendulum is on the north and south side of the mountain, and the idea is that the tiny gravity of the mountain will deflect the pendulum ever so slightly. And you can figure out how much that deflection is using a telescope and the stars, and comparing it to where the stars are in the sky. And then if you can figure out the mass of the mountain by looking at the rocks in it, then you can figure out the constant of gravity and use that to calculate the mass of the Earth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What year was that done?
Ooh, I want to say 1770s.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a little bit after the Transit of Venus experiment.
Yeah.
Because they used the extra funds that they didn't spend. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and the other one that's gone pretty well is the coal-fired aircraft carriers of Lake Michigan. They were coal-fired paddle wheel passenger ships that were converted to aircraft carriers on the lake to use as training for pilots in World War II.
They were paddle wheel boats.
Yes.
So you're all paddling with your...
Yeah, so there's a big wheel. They were horizontal paddle wheels as opposed to the big vertical ones.
Yeah.
And there were coal boilers pushing this paddle wheel with the steam engine. And they basically sailed around Lake Michigan in different wind conditions. And the idea was that if you were training as a carrier pilot, you could do it free from the danger of German submarines.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. When did you get into writing for Rational Animations?
So I actually won a script writing contest they did in 2022. So they hired me January 23 originally as part-time, and then I became full-time February 2025, yeah.
Gotcha. And how many pieces have you written for them now?
Ooh, probably around a dozen. Several of them are still in various stages of production.
And I always enjoy telling people that the Rational Animations, staff count. I think I chatted with your CEO, and he was like, yes, we have one writer and 40 animators. And I was like, do you need more writers? And he was like, I need more animators.
This is true. The animators are always the bottleneck, which kind of takes a little bit of pressure off of me. Like, I can write 6 scripts and we can use only 3 of them because the animators are the slow step.
Is there anyone else? So you work with Rob Miles there because he does a lot of
Miles
narration.
does the narration. He also does a lot of the editing because he will be like, I don't want to narrate that because I don't agree with it. And
That's classic rationalist.
Yes, he's very deep into the editing process. The CEO himself steps in as well. There's a couple other people who are part-time for us in the writing department. Justin Kuiper, who's another Inkhaven person, is now involved in that after Inkhaven won.
Well, he won the Rational Animations writing competition in Inkhaven 1.
Yeah, it turns out that competitions are a reasonably good way for us to hire people.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm much happier to hear that. I just thought it had not panned out. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I still have to get him one of Ben Landau-Taylor's lovely long-lasting 1,000-year glass plaques.
That would be
for
fun.
one of his essays.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it sounded like you explored your writing styles during Inkhaven.
For sure.
Yeah. Was there any particular... What about Inkhaven encouraged you to do that? Was that just something you brought in, or was there any aspects?
Just because I had to do so many posts, I think.
Right.
Because, I easily get bored doing the same thing over and over again. Yeah. And if I do the same thing every month, it'll take a very long time for me to get bored. But if I do the same thing every day, I'll get bored very quickly.
Yes.
So I felt like I wanted to do these experimental ones in between all of my standard explanations.
Yeah, I think I won't go into too much, but I think also I did my first ever piece of fiction, and it was a weird crossover fan fiction, and I had so much fun doing it, and hopefully it set something up, and hopefully I'll get to do more of it. But yeah, I get the same. I get the feeling. What was the best thing? What was the worst thing about doing Inkhaven?
Best thing was all the people. I know it sounds very cliche, but what I always tell my friends about this is if you get 41 people in a building and they all have to write for 30 days, they all at least have 30 interesting things to say.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So there's, 1,200 interesting things around.
Yeah. And this time we have 55 people.
I know. It's exciting as well.
Yeah.
To be back and to see this whole new cohort, and they're slightly different vibe, but they all are exciting people.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. What have you noticed coming back so far? You've been here 4 days?
Yes.
And what have you noticed so far?
Well, I noticed people come from sort of a wider collection of backgrounds, I think.
I think so.
And then the other thing is there's a lot of meta posts.
There is a lot of meta posts. I don't know what to do about it. I'm just going to have an LLM flag all of them and like downweight them on the website.
It's possible. I think there's a value in having a small number of meta posts.
Yes.
But it is possible we have passed that.
Yeah. I just keep seeing new posts where like the AI generated image is me with my boot stamping on someone's face as they write. I'm like, okay, I guess that was your choice.
Yeah.
And they are funny. And then what was the worst part of Inkhaven?
The worst part of Inkhaven, I did not sleep very well.
Oh.
I was just, part of it was just I was too excited. Part of it was just like I'm used to not being cold and humid at the same time. Because in New Jersey, when it's cold, it's dry. And when it's warm, it's humid. So,
Which building were you in?
I was in the top part of B.
Oh, you're right. Cool. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the room with the stained glass window.
Yeah, it's really with the little face that's been replaced with the lady from Spirited Away.
Yeah, that was very fun.
Which writing advisors when you were at Inkhaven did you get much out of?
The Slime Mode Time Mode people.
I thought you were going to say
The
that.
Slime Mode Time Mode people I talked with a lot. And
They bring such a good energy.
They do. And I honestly feel like when I was getting a review from them, it wasn't like I was scheduling a review time and then blocking it out. I was just like chatting with them and I was like, oh, hey, here's my piece. And
Yes.
they'd be like, and then they'd be like, oh, okay, we'll talk about it because it's an interesting topic.
Yes.
And that was awesome. I also got feedback from Alexander Wales and Scott Alexander on different things.
Yep.
Scott was definitely more of a scheduled moment, but he had fun feedback.
Scott Alexander Wales.
Yeah.
Yeah, Slime Old's the girl slime. That's why. Anyway,
Yeah.
Rusty came on the podcast. We released that still, and they've got such a wealth of scientific background. I was like, "What do you want to read?" And she was like, "My Immortal Harry Potter fan fiction."
Wait, that's amazing.
I hadn't read it. I had to read it for that. That was my job.
You had to read My
I had to
Immortal.
read. I read 15 chapters.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was a hoot.
Friends in high school did a lunchtime out loud reading of it day by day, one chapter at a time, for like a month.
Aye. All the wonderful things that you can get if you're not allowed to have an editing process.
Yes, this is true.
Did your writing change much over the course of writing for Rational Animations?
Yeah, so I think there's an emphasis in our Rational Animations videos, which is we try and set things in stories more. And we don't always... Sometimes the stories are just like, here's what some scientists did, that's cool. But like, we're trying to make every video like have that narrative arc.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that usually when I'm writing an explainer, the thing that's carrying it is I'm extremely interested in this, and I want you to be extremely interested in this too. And I think that because at Rational Animations, I'm writing a lot of topics that I'm not originally interested in, but then become interested in as I research them. I think it's a little bit of a different vibe.
That makes sense. Do you have I suspect the answer may well be no, but do you have any different goals coming back at Inkhaven 2?
Yeah, so I've been writing all my posts on a single theme of going back this time.
Oh, yeah.
So the first ones, I posted some fiction from college that I thought was going to be incredibly cringy, and then was like only a little bit cringy. Beyond that, I did one about Artemis 2, so going back to the moon. I did some ones about places I've gone back. I did the Khwarezmian Empire one that we discussed. Yeah, it's fun.
Nice. Yeah. And there's also a bunch of the Inkhaven alumni back as well at the same time.
Yeah, I managed to get that good week.
Yeah, I think when a bunch of the guys came back at the same time, like Tomas and Vishal, and they were like, yes, Inkhaven has returned.
Yeah.
And how much of your time is writing for Rational Animations? Is it essentially a full-time job?
Yeah, at this point, it's a full-time salaried job thing.
And it's 40 hours a week of working on that stuff?
Yeah, so yes, it's not... The nice part about it is it's not 40 scheduled hours a week.
Yeah.
It is... I have to do an amount of work that approximately is that many hours.
Sure.
And I can decide when I can get it done.
Yeah.
Some of the things are meetings that I have to do with people in different time zones. But I really appreciate that flexibility for my own work style. But still having that goal I need to hit.
It is a remote organization?
Yeah, we don't even have an office.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Have you how many of the people you work with closely have you met in person?
So let's see, my boss I met while I was on a trip to Rome. There's Justin, there's Jackson Wagner, and there's Rob. I don't think I've met any of the animators in person. There's one
Okay.
who's in the same metropolitan area as me, but we've been meaning to meet up, but haven't done it.
Yeah, I think you do a lot of coordinating over Discord.
Yes, we do everything over Discord.
Discord, the bane of my existence.
It's an app. It works. It is, and it is free, unlike Slack.
I just have a few. Yeah, well, the great thing about us is we have a non-profit access to Slack.
Oh yeah,
so
I
it's
wonder
free
if
for us.
we should do that.
I recommend it.
Okay.
I prefer the feature set of Slack much more to Discord. And then I just have like Scott Alexander and Alicorn who are like, I will not use Slack. And I'm like, great.
That's legit.
Which of your videos or which of your pieces of writing with the Rational Animations are you most proud of?
Ooh, I really like the one I did on info hazards.
Oh yeah.
It was very fun, and I just it was like writing it was the funnest, I think. And it felt like we were able to bring in all these different ideas about things in history that were acted as info hazards, or ways that like these different classification schemes and so forth.
Yeah, and I think you can be playful with that where, describing the things, you get to be like, oh, maybe we shouldn't be describing this, or you get to...
Yeah, we were very careful not to share any info hazards that would affect the viewers in real life.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Even no matter how minor, yeah.
How long did you work on it for?
So I probably was involved in that on and off for a couple months. This was when I was part-time.
I see.
And then the animators took their time doing it.
Yeah.
But I like the aesthetic that it came out of it. It was sort of like a spy / detective vibe.
It was. That was really fun. Mr. Doggo with his glasses.
Yeah.
What's your favorite bit of animation that they've done with a bit of your writing?
Ooh,
Even just a single drawing or just like a little cut between
favorite bit
things.
involving my writing. Okay. Yeah. There is a moment in one that we did about takeoff speeds, where I mentioned that on the top supercomputer of 2024 or whatever, a training run of the size we expect by the model that we're using, Davison's model, would have had to start in the Jurassic period. And it has a little dinosaur walk by. And I love that. And the dinosaur's got the doggo glasses.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I love just like small little animation jokes, like when I watch like I think it was Spirited Away. There's a point where there's a dialogue going on and there's like some fleas or something that go through and they accidentally cause like a magical bad ritual to happen to like one of the mice or something.
Oh no.
And they go, oh no. And I'm like, oh, is this about to be a whole plot point or something? And then whilst you're watching it, they manage to like do the anti-ritual and get the mouse out of it. And no one mentions this in the whole thing. It's like my favorite.
Yeah, the animators are great. They have so many little things. There's a couple of times where like they show people from Rational Animations.
Like Rob or someone?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Rob, there's a fun bit, which is because Rob is narrating and has his own channel, we often like cite something by Rob Miles, and then we have to say, that's me, the narrator, Rob Miles, by the way.
That's fun.
Which is funny because I'm not Rob Miles, but I know it's being spoken by Rob Miles. Yeah.
That makes sense. What kind of person do you think Inkhaven is good for?
Ooh.
Who in your life would you be like, you must do Inkhaven. It is the right shape for what you need.
I mean, the obvious answer is the other people writing at Rational Animations, the part-timers. I mean, I mentioned one of them already was here, but like it's awesome if you are the kind of person who just needs like someone to yell at you to post all the time. Like you only get better at creating stuff for the internet if you post your stuff on the internet. And this is the best place to make that happen because you have to. If you have a lot of ideas already, that also really helps. So I always keep a list of ideas, just like anything that pops into my head that might make a blog, I just write it down on my phone. Yeah,
I think we had a great, I think the first time Gwern did office hours in Inkhaven 1, a young lady came up to him with just, I think, a list of like 40 blog post titles.
Yeah.
She was like, which one should I write? And he just went through them and he's like, here's what I'm really interesting and here's what will be more interesting as well.
Okay.
I'm not interested in these ones here, but he just like, that was such a good like bit of feedback for her. I think she got a lot out of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right. So you got the Rational Animations going. You've got your Signore Galilei.
Yes.
And you've also got your podcast.
Yes, I do a podcast with my dad. It's called The Luniverse with Dr. Charles Liu.
Nice.
He is an astronomer. So on the podcast we get other scientists, usually astronomers, but sometimes other kinds of people.
Oh, nice.
And we talk about their work. We talk about like sci-fi and pop culture.
You had Neil deGrasse Tyson on it yet?
We have not. My dad has been on Neil's podcast,
Aw.
but Neil has not been on ours yet.
Oh. What sort of can you give an example of a guest that you've had on?
Okay, so we had a guest who posts on Reddit as Andromeda321 and is the person who answers everyone's astronomy questions on Reddit.
Oh.
She is a professional astronomer as well.
That's very nice.
Yeah, we get a lot of people who do like black holes or exoplanets. Those are like big right now. But it's fun to like. There's so many corners of astronomy because it's like most of the universe.
It's a bit like a internet excavator.
Yes.
What does her job look like from day to day? What's she like working on?
Yeah. Ooh,
Is she just like at a big like observatory and just gathering data?
So most of the time what astronomers do, these days the observatories are mostly automated, so you can send one grad student down there to run a lot of things. Yeah, there's like the engineers who manage the things are very important. But most of the time what astronomer does day to day is they're taking data from some observatory and teasing out as much facts as they can from these, basically just a diagram of the colors of light you're seeing. The spectrum.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, my dad does colliding galaxies, for instance. Colliding galaxies.
Oh, colliding.
Yes. So he'll like look at these populations of galaxies from halfway across the universe and be like, what can we learn about the star formation histories of these galaxies? And because these things live for billions of years, it's like the analogy is like, what can a mayfly study the aging process of a tortoise?
Ooh. That's tough.
It's tough, but what you do is you get a lot of different galaxies in different stages of the same process.
Yes.
And you compare them to each other.
I've always thought that the correct like spirit animal for Inkhaven would be a tortoise that was already 100 years old.
Ooh.
Just to be like, oh yeah, history is long, time is slow. Or just,
I feel like it'd be good for Lighthaven as a whole, maybe.
Yeah.
But for Inkhaven specifically...
Oh, no, sorry, I meant Lighthaven.
Okay.
I meant Lighthaven, sorry.
Lighthaven for sure, yeah. Inkhaven, I feel like we are not slow.
No.
We are late, but we are not slow.
No, Inkhaven would be the mayfly.
Yes.
Every day, you better post before the mayfly passes on.
Exactly.
Yeah, wonderful. I think I'm coming towards the end of the questions I had prepared. Is there something else I should ask you about?
Okay. The thing that came to mind for me is I had a good time presenting stuff about YouTube to Inkhavenites.
Oh, right.
Whatever the correct demonym is.
Inklings.
Inklings. I love that. It's like from Splatoon.
Oh, yeah. I really thought you were going to say it's like the... Tolkien group that used to meet in Oxford. Sure, Splatoon, that's right.
Yeah, it's also that. Yeah, so me and Justin had a fun conversation the other day, just like at Rat Park as a public thing, and we were just going back and forth about YouTube Inside Baseball, and people were interested in it in a way that I really liked, even though most of them are not themselves doing YouTube yet, but several of them would like to. So
that's great.
I encourage people to start YouTube channels even if they are bad, the same way that you should start a blog even if it's bad.
Yeah.
If you are the kind of person who likes a blog, you might be the kind of person who likes YouTube.
Yeah, I'm currently going through that myself. What should you start by putting up on YouTube?
So the trick is you find like a few things you would enjoy doing. And again, survivorship bias, right? But the advice I hear is you find a few different kinds of content you enjoy doing, you post them and see like, basically you want to have a loop of finding both what you like doing and what the audience likes.
Can you give me two different examples of a thing that you like doing, that someone likes doing, that you think like is a good one to get started with?
Yeah, so for instance, very early in my channel, I had my very first videos. I took a webcam and turned it into a microscope by reversing the optics.
Wow.
Yeah, you can just. It turns out if it's the correct kind of webcam, you can literally just unscrew it and screw it back in, and now it's a microscope.
That's crazy.
It's crazy that like this is a $20 piece of technology and it works.
So you just like.
I filmed myself doing this, and
you cut it and speed it up, or you just
cut it and sped up, and so forth, and. At some point, I transitioned to my like glorified slideshow CGP Grey Nyan Misili-esque videos, but I valued having the ability to try out these different genres. How
long was that video?
That video was maybe 5-6 minutes.
Cool.
Yeah, it was fun. You can watch it if you want. It's not amazing, but
we'll put a link in the channel.
Yeah.
In the details.
You should maybe put some links to the better videos too.
I mean, we'll put everything we chat about.
Gotcha.
But that's fun. I'm just started with this one. This is like video number 5 or 6 or so.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I like for podcasts like this one, if you if you know what theme you want to do ahead of time, it's a little different than trying everything out possibly. But you can, vary the way that you present it if you would like to do that.
yeah.
Yeah, you can be like slightly different ways of editing or slightly different ways of
Yeah.
all the other sorts of things.
Different kinds of thumbnails.
Yeah, because you want to both drive your internal engine that makes you want to keep doing it, and also you want to drive engagement because you want people to see this thing for a reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's our YouTube channel is like the Litecoin channel, which means that basically the last video uploaded was the full Fuming Shoggoths album.
Nice.
And then a few debates I hosted during COVID. And now we've got a bunch of these coming.
That's awesome.
But every YouTube channel, you can sort them by like top, newest, and oldest. And when you do oldest, you just get crazy stuff.
Oh my gosh. I searched Veritasium by oldest one time.
Ooh.
And they have like songs. There's a song about different kinds of chemical bonds, which is not a great song, but it is fun that it exists.
Certainly. Well, thanks so much for coming on.
Of course.
Thanks so much for coming back to Inkhaven. It's been fun to have you.
It's been fun being back.
Great. All right. Well, I think we'll end it there. Farewell until next time. Before we wrap up, I'd just like to thank our sponsor for this episode, Rational Animations. When I was younger, animation mostly taught me that talking animals would help solve all of my problems. Rational Animations carries on that proud tradition, but now it helps adults too. Rational Animations makes polished, visually clever videos that promote good thinking, altruistic causes, and ensuring that humanity's future goes well. They take ideas that are usually dense or abstract and make them crisp, memorable, and entertaining. If you'd like to become less confused in a beautiful way, I recommend their channel. Check them out at rationalanimations.com or just search for that channel on YouTube. They also offer animation production and writing services, if you're looking for that.